Okay, students, I'm going to show you what work must be shown for your test tomorrow using either method. So I'm going to see about doing two problems and do them at the same time. Showing the Carlsen method, obviously you see on the left side, AC method on the right side. So obviously you're going to do this on your paper, and then back on the actual test itself, you'll put your answers and you'll take the screenshots of both. So obviously on your paper, the first thing to write down is the problem itself. Identify the A, B, and C above it. Okay, and then you see multiplies, remember that's a times sign, and X multiplies to AC, and A times C, 12 times -2 is -24, adds to B, 5. You notice the exact same thing is done. I told you the first steps of coming up with the two numbers is the same no matter what method you use. AC method, Carlsen method, or box method. Okay? So now, when I look at and I see that it has to multiply to -24, that means one has to be positive, one is negative. That's the first thing I'm going to write down, positive and negative. Okay? Because one number has to be positive, one has to be negative. So deal with that right away. If this is a positive 24 and this is a positive 5, then both signs have to be positive. And I put two positives down. If this is a positive 24 and this was a negative 5, then both of these have to be negative. And I put the two negatives down. That way you don't forget the sign. Okay? So 8 minus 3 is 5. And 8 times -3 is -24. So it's 8 and -3. Those are my two numbers. Okay? So now with the Carlsen method, go ahead and write down my two boxes here, my two binomials, put my two smiley faces here. Okay, I can put a plus sign in between. Okay, now notice I have a 12 out front. There are multiple numbers. Remember, these first two boxes have to multiply the 12x squared. So it's something x and something x. But I have combination. I could have 1 and 12, I could have 2 and 6, and I can have 3 and 4. So if you're using the Carlsen method, I have to see those combinations written down. And then I go ahead and, like I told you in the prior videos, I start with the highest number and work my way down. Does 12 times some integer give me 8 or -3? No, it doesn't. So I'm crossing that out. Notice I'm crossing out the 12 because you've shown me now that you've tried 12 and it does not work. Okay? Next highest, I don't have to try 1 because already one of them wipes out. 1 obviously is going to work for anything. Next highest number is 6. Does 6 times an integer give me 8 or -3? No, it doesn't. So I cross out the 6. So automatically, if it factors, it has to be 3 and 4. Does 4 go into 8 evenly? Yes, it does. Does 3 go into -3 evenly? Yes, it does. So I can see those two work. So 3x and 4x. And it doesn't matter if I put the 4x here or 3x here because the key is this smiley faces. This one times this one has to multiply to one of these, and this times this has to multiply to the other one. So 4x times what is positive 8? 4 times 2. And so then I see that 4 times 2 there, and I see the 8. Okay, put the 8 right there, showing you taking care of this 8. Now you got to take care of the -3. 3 times what gives me the -3? -1. Put the -3 there. 3 times -1 is -3. So now I see that I've taken care of both of these numbers right there. Okay, and there's your answer. All right, there was no GCF to take out. Just, first thing I would do is look to take a GCF out. There was no GCF to take out, otherwise I would have taken it out. Okay, so that's the work that I expect. Now, I'll show you another example later here where after taking out the GCF, there's only one combination that works. So I don't have to write down all of these combinations if there's only one that works. Okay, in this case though, there was 3 combinations that could have worked. I had to go through and show the work and wipe out, show me that you did. You checked each one and it didn't work. Okay, AC method now. Remember we're changing this 5x now into 8x and a -3x. So I have 12x squared plus 8x minus 3x and then -2. Okay, so I still have the exact same thing. That's 5x, and there's my 5x right there. I'm just changing to 8x minus 3x, using those two numbers right there. Okay? All right, so now I'm factoring in pairs with the AC method here. Okay, what's the GCF of 12x squared and 8x? 4x. What am I left with? 3x plus 2. Now, since that's a 3x plus 2 in parentheses here, I have to have a 3x plus 2 in parentheses here. Now, so this is the tricky part with the AC method that you don't ever have to deal with mine, okay? If you just looked at the numbers negative 3x minus 2, you'd say, oh, I don't see a GCF there at all. And you just write it down again and put a 1 out front, but you can't do that. In the AC method, you have to have these two parentheses exactly the same. So 3x plus 2, this has to be 3x plus 2. So what do I have to take out? A negative 1 there. This is the biggest error that students make using the AC method, is they don't know how to go from this negative 3x minus 2 to make it look the exact same by factoring out that negative 1. Okay, notice I'm not doing any of that stuff over my method here. Okay, so now we have the exact same two by now, so we can factor that out. So we have two terms, that term and that term. The GCF is 3x plus 2. We factor that out, and what are we left with? 4x minus 1. And you notice you get the exact same answer. Okay, so that is the work using the AC method. That's what you have to show me on your paper. Okay, for each problem. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let me bring one up here that I am factoring out, and then getting, okay, 8x squared plus 4x minus 4. Okay. And so write it down again over here, 8x squared plus 4x minus 4. Okay, and there's my A, B, C, multiplies to A times C, which is, okay, so before, I'm just going to write these parts out here, multiplies to AC, adds to B, adds to B. Okay, so what happens is a lot of people, when they're doing the AC method that I saw, those that were doing that should do the AC method, they would forget to factor out the GCF to begin with. Remember, it's always the first step to factor GCF. So then what they're doing, we're multiplying A times C here, A, B, and C. A times C gives you negative 32. It adds to 4. And you can get those numbers, but notice you're multiplying to negative 32 now. Okay, bigger numbers and adding to 4. And so it's going to take you some more time to get that. Okay? You always want to factor out the GCF first. So I take out the 4 here, and I'm left with 2x squared plus 1x minus 1. Okay, take out the 4. 2x squared plus 1x minus 1. Okay, now here's my A, B, and C. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and B is 1. Look how much smaller those numbers are. That's easy to come up with. This is why you want to take out the GCF to begin with, because otherwise you would have to take it out at the end, which again, those that did the AC method forgot to take out the GCF to begin with, forgot also to take it out at the end. And I warned you on that. That's a common error that students make. Okay, so you always got to take out the GCF first. 1, factor out GCF. 2, factor what's left if possible. Which will be possible on your test because I'm giving it based off the worksheets that I've created, so they all factor. There are no primes. Okay? So everyone will factor in your test. Okay, so multiplies to 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 and adds to 1. Okay, remember these steps are the same up till here. Okay, now with the Carlsen method here, you notice there's only one combination that multiplies to 2. So I don't have to have this list of numbers and combinations up here like I had with 12, where there's 3 different combinations. There's only one. So I have 4, and I know it has to be 2x and x, because it's the only thing that multiplies to 2. Again, I draw my smiley faces. Okay? My two numbers, you see it multiplies to a negative 2, right? So one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So it's 2 minus 1 is positive 1, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So again, you got to have a positive and a negative. Positive 2 minus 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, so 2 times what is positive 2? Positive 1. 1 times what is the other one? 1 times what is negative 1? Negative 1. So I have negative 1 times 1 is negative 1 right there, and 2 times positive 1 is positive 2, and I see I have those same two numbers right there. I better see that. Okay, so that means you're not going to get it wrong. Okay, and you're done right there. So the first step on your sheet would be to factor out the GCF, and that would be that part. And then the second blank to the right, the final answer, and it told you it includes the GCF, okay, would be this right here. So this is the first blank when you factor out the GCF, and this is your final answer right there, okay, that you type in the second blank. If there was no GCF to factor out, you just leave the first blank, or you can just say no GCF, and then just go right to your final answer on the test itself. You put, you do your work on your sheet over here. Okay, so now here's another comment here again. People, after they factor out the GCF, they forgot to keep it with it in the final answer. So you drop this down here as well, and you write it as 2x squared. Here you have plus 2x minus 1x and minus 1. So don't forget to leave it in there out front when you're splitting this middle one up into these two terms on the AC method. Now we go ahead and factor those pairings. I keep that 4 there, don't drop it off. And what's it? I'll put it in parentheses so you know it's not part of these pieces right here. What is the GCF here? 2x. I'm left with x plus 1. Okay? Now remember, since that's x plus 1, this has to be x plus 1. Right now it's minus x minus 1. But it has to be x plus 1. So these have to come out to be the same. So in order for that to happen, I have to take out that negative. So I'm with that same issue that I had up here. Got to take out the negative, so it ends up with x plus 1. Okay? And now I have that GCF that I can take out. So I have the 4, okay, and then I took out the x plus 1 from each, and then what am I left with? 2x minus 1. And therefore, you see you got the exact same answers. Okay, just more work with the AC method. Okay, so you got two perfect examples showing all the work that's necessary that you have to show on your test. No excuse not knowing. So like I told you, if you just write down answers, you get no credit. If you wrote down just this final answer on the sheet and you had none of this work, you get a 0. Okay, got to show it. Okay, and like I said, algebra 2, you'll be starting out dealing with factoring. This is only a little factoring. There's more factoring. We already dealt with difference of perfect squares or difference of squares. There's also difference of perfect cubes and sum of cubes that you'll get into next year as well. But this is the algebra 1 factoring. Okay, it's as far as you dealt with in algebra 1, depending on what teacher you had and how much time they spent in dealing with factoring. But factoring is major for algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus. Okay, you got to have it down. So if you need to, watch these videos again over the summer before school starts, so you get a refresh in your head. You got both methods. Like I said, your algebra 2 teachers are only going to teach the AC method, just so you know that. So if you want to use Carlsen method, you got to come back and watch the video if you don't get it memorized. All right, that will do it.